Hey everybody, welcome to the Sheepdog Project. Doc here. Across from me is Tim. Both very happy to be here. Before we get down into the weeds of what we're going to talk about today, really quick, I want to talk about some things that we have upcoming. Everybody, we're getting so much traffic on the Sheepdog website. It's amazing. You guys keep buying out everything off the shelves on the Sheepdog store. We appreciate that. But I want everybody to go right now. I want you to pause the podcast. I want you to go to sheepdogresponse.com, and I want you to look at the upcoming courses that we have. I want you to look for what's coming up in your area. Yes, predominantly we tend to do everything in the Southwest. We kind of stick around our own neck of the woods, which is Texas, Oklahoma area. We've got some stuff coming up in Utah, Nevada, but of particular importance because we got such an outpouring of requests to do something on the East Coast, specifically to do something in the Northeast. September 20th through 21st, we will be putting on a law enforcement and military only course in New Jersey, and that will be immediately followed by a level 1 course. So a level 1 course means it's open to anybody. You don't ever have to have picked up a gun. You don't ever have to have stepped on the mat before. We're going to teach you everything you need to know. Show up for that September 22nd through 24th, again, also in New Jersey. Go right now, pause the podcast, go to sheepdogresponse.com. I want you to sign up for the course first. Then I want you to figure out how you're going to explain to your boss and your family why you need that time off. So you got to have your priorities. So that's the order in which I want you to do it. We also have a medical course. We got such great feedback from our first one that we did. We've got another one come up, Veterans Day weekend. So starting on November 10th in Austin, Spectrum of Tactical Emergency Care. Make sure you get signed up for that. We're going to teach you everything you need to know to keep the blood in the good guys as you're spilling the blood out of the bad guys. So speaking of teaching, that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about teaching. How do we pass this on? You know, we talk a lot, and you know we're very focused on you as a patriarch, as a matriarch, whatever it might be, being that sheepdog for your family. And I know this because I'm 51 years old. I'm not going to be around forever. We've got to pass this on to the next generation. And this recently came up. Tim and I were at a jiu-jitsu seminar with one of the Gracie brothers, Wheeler Gracie, and he talked specifically about that, about passing this on to the next generation, about somebody else picking up the torch and carrying it. So that's what I want to talk about today, is being a teacher, not just to your peer group, but how do we approach it when it comes to being a parent? When is the right time? How do you approach it? What if they don't want to do it? What do we do? So Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
That's not easy. You know, it's I have 3 children, and they're all very, very different. They have different hobbies. They have different talents. They have different gifts, and you know, I don't want to force them to do anything, but I also know that it's my obligation, it's my responsibility to prepare them as best I can for life. And you know, we're well traveled, we're well educated, and we have a lot of chance of something bad happening to us. You know, if you look at, I have my 2 oldest are 2 beautiful girls, and statistically they have a really, really good chance of being sexually assaulted sometime between ages of around 11 until they're 25, that they're going to be victims of unwanted sexual contact. So as a parent, does that mean that they should be able to protect themselves and defend themselves? Yes. Does that mean that I need to give them as best I can the information that will, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, keep them out of those situations? But I also don't want to ruin their childhood, and I don't want them to know just how disgusting and evil we as humans can be. So hell, man, it's tough.
No,
you know?
there's a thin line that we all walk as parents, and I'm with you. Is I don't seeing what I've seen in the world, seeing the terrible things that I've seen, I want to protect my kids from that. And I have two boys, 16 and 10. And it's like, God, there's so much ugliness out there that I don't even want you to know exists. But am I really doing you a favor from keeping you from that knowledge? And it's hard because I don't think I am. I think I'm doing them a disservice. It's like I wish I could keep them in a bubble. We all want our kids to have a better life than we had, a safer life than we had, and not only safety from the terrible things that are out there, but safety from themselves. Because I think about the horrendous mistakes that I made in my late teens, early 20s, and I don't want my kids to be in those type of situations. There were multiple times where I could have ended up in the hospital. I could have ended up in the ground. I could have ended up in jail. And I don't want my kids to be in those situations. But I guess at the end of the day, you have to let them live their own lives. I mean, there's no two ways around that. But Tim, how old were you when you first started training in firearms and martial arts?
Hell, man, like 6.
Yeah.
I started like Shotokan karate as like 6 or 8 at the Atascadero City Hall in one of the rec rooms, and then I started Japanese jiu-jitsu in middle school, and got into wrestling in high school. Started doing kickboxing and Hawaiian Kempo my senior year of high school, freshman year of college. So I'd been a martial artist for forever. Growing up in rural Central California, my dad's a police officer. We got lots of guns in the house, so we had a good, healthy respect for firearms. I'd gone shooting with my dad countless times. And I don't even know how old I was the first time I shot a gun. I know that, like, I got a gun, my Ruger 1022 first. Before that, I had a BB gun, and I had to treat that BB gun like it was a real gun. Trigger awareness, muzzle awareness, every rule that you have with guns implemented with the BB gun. And then I went up from the spring cocked BB gun to the 10 pump air gun, and then from the air gun to there was a very clear, looking back, clever progression that my dad used, that he used with my sister and my brother and myself. So we started young, and we were very safe. My parents were I had incredible, loving, generous parents that were good with their time. A lot of activity that we did together, from camping and hiking, and I remember like we canoed and went down the Oregon River before most kids know how to swim. We were out living in a tent, and we didn't have to be in a tent. We could have stayed in a hotel. My parents were okay financially, but like, they chose this because they wanted us to endure a little bit and to experience and to tough it, but not in such a way that we resented or what we weren't having fun. It was exciting and it was new. And I think that was, man, if I'm looking for a model, I've been so fortunate that I have a groundwork, a blueprint already laid out for me. I feel bad for people that didn't know their parents, parents that skipped out, deadbeats dads, that man, they are not only did they miss that opportunity to experience and to grow, but they missed that chance to learn. Like, I look at when they're going to have kids, they're going to be operating without any wires. They're going to have to create and do on their own, which is beautiful and brilliant. Because then I look at parents or kids that had horrible parents that were abusive or that were just dicks. And just makes me so grateful to know that, man, I got a really good idea about how it's supposed to go. And I've dropped the ball. I haven't done it perfectly. But I still got time. I'm trying.
Well, in your defense, they they don't come with an owner's manual. That's most challenging thing about kids is you don't drive off the lot. You don't get to reach over and pop open the glove box and there's an owner's manual in there that tells you exactly what to do. I think for me that the foundation has been, aside from any specific training in martial arts. My oldest did martial arts at a pretty young age, and he's really lost interest in it now because of the choice that was made for him, not by me, in which martial art he got to pursue. And basically, he got the McDojo martial arts, and that has kind of soured martial arts for him. Both of them have an interest in firearms, which I find pretty encouraging. But I think aside from that, kind of just setting up the foundation for self-reliance, I think is the first step. Like, to people out there that say, "Well, I can't get my kid interested." Kid doesn't want to go to the range, or he doesn't want to go and take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or take kickboxing, whatever it might be. Start with a foundation of self-reliance, and I mean, a kid who's literally only interested in playing video games in his spare time, which I discourage because obviously there's no exercise there. But there's still a pathway to self-reliance there. You can still teach that, all right, you're going to keep your room in order, and you're going to do your homework, and you're going to brush your teeth, and you're going to comb your hair, and you're going to wash your ass, and that anything you see as recreationally is a reward, and you're not going to get any of that until all those things are done. And I have been really blessed in the fact that my oldest especially, I don't have to tell him anything. He when a meal is over, he cleans up his own dishes, and oftentimes he cleans up his little brother's dishes, and he supervises his little brother absolutely and 100% without being told to do so. And I see him doing this all the time. He's on his little brother about, did you do this? Did you do that? Are you packed for this? Are you packed for that? And I think if you can impart the self-reliance aspect onto them, and also impart into their psyche that, I love you and I am your parent and I'm obligated to provide for you, but I do so out of love. But really nobody else in this world owes you anything. So when you go out there, you're going to have to make it on your own. I think if they walk away with that, eventually everybody's going to come around to it if you have that framework. Because look at the people that come to our courses that have never been involved in anything like this before. But typically the person who signs up for a Sheepdog course is not the person who has been laid off from 8 minimum wage jobs in a row for poor performance. The people that are showing up to our courses are CEOs and owners of their own companies, people that are immensely successful in other aspects of life. They might have come late to the game, to the whole aspect of being a sheepdog, but they have this immense data bank of self-reliance and being a self-starter. And those are the guys that when they show up on that first day, they're like an open book. They're like a blank slate. But they're so open to it that most of them, I think, do really, really well in our courses, whereas some of these guys who might have picked up a firearm for the first time, at age 12 or whatever, and learned some bad habits, might even be a little bit more resistant to some of the training that we offer them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think people forget what their role is as a parent. I don't know what the hell is wrong with this generation. This entitled, like everybody gets a medal, and kids getting pandered and placated by their parents. A parent is not. It's not your job to be your kid's best friend. Yeah, it's awesome that I have great friendships and relationships with my children, but I'm their parent. I have to sometimes do things or make decisions that they're not going to like. They're like, man, no, you really should go to practice, or you really should finish your piano lessons, or you should go practice on the piano, or You should pick your violin back up, or no, you have to do your homework. It would be a lot cooler if I was their friend. I was like, all right, let's go grab our bikes. Let's go down to the pool and hang out for a little bit.
See, that's the easy way out, though. That's where people, in my opinion, are putting themselves above their children because they don't want to feel that conflict. They don't want to be the bad guy. You know, it's the easy wrong versus the hard right. And I am 100% with you.
You're not being the bad guy. You're being
the good guy.
You are.
Yeah, and you have to live with the fact that an 8-year-old might get severe lower lip edema and pout and think you're the bad guy right now. And guess what? When they're 28, they're going to go, wow, that ass whipping you gave me was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Thank you. Thank you for making me do my algebra homework, because I just got into insert new college name. Thank you for putting me in calculus, even though I wanted to take that extra elective and hang out with that boy I thought was kind of cute, because I get to go to the school that I dreamed of going to, and you're setting them up for success. You know, like the trajectory of their lives are going to be dictated by all these tiny little decisions, and these tiny little decisions cumulatively add up and build up to the right moment and opportunity for them to blossom into something beautiful, to be productive, contributing member of society, or for them to be entitled little brats living off society, living off of social media and Instagram, and figuring out what they're going to add to their next trending topic of stupid discussion. You know, like, what do you want them to be? You don't need to be their best friend. You need to be their freaking parent. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a dick. That doesn't mean you have to be the bad guy. That doesn't mean that you have to, like, walk around with a ruler and be like, no, you're going to do your homework. That's not what we're saying at all. What we're saying is, like, that tough love of wanting to see them succeed means that you sometimes have to make tough decisions. Decisions that it would be way more fun for me to be on a paddleboard at Town Lake, downtown Austin, with my kids than in a warehouse sweating out of every pore of our body, every sweat gland of our body dripping everywhere. But I'm building in them that desire and that character of wanting to succeed and knowing that feeling of achieving something that can only be earned. But you gotta also go paddleboarding with them. You just gotta do it at the right time. You know, it's there's not a blueprint. There's not a recipe for success. Every day is going to be different. But you are not their best friend. You're their parent. You are their father. You are their mother. You're their step parent. It doesn't matter what you are. Whatever role you're in, you have to make the hard, tough decision. Usually the less fun one. And that less fun one is going to give them the best chance at succeeding. You know, the best chance of being that thing that they dream of being. You know, picking up that journal that they wrote in kindergarten, that 2-paragraph where they drew the picture of the pilot, and they're like, or the astronaut. Your daughter was like, oh, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. I want to work for NASA. You know she's got to be good at math. You know she's going to have to put in the time. You know she's going to have to be in shape. You know that she's going to have to be a prodigy at the vast majority of the things that she's going to be doing, and you know that it's going to take a ton of work. Well, that's her dream. That was her dream when she was 5. And when you're sitting there giving her a medal of participation in a soccer game that she lost, you're setting her up for failure. You're forcing her. You yourself are responsible for her not fulfilling her dreams because you're lazy. Sorry, that sucks, but it's true.
It's a hard truth. What are your kids in public school?
Yes, no, and yes.
So both of mine are. So coincidentally, right now, probably right this moment as we are speaking, there is a public teachers march on the state capitol going on in Austin that has to do with them being not in favor of the school choice bill that's going to be in the Texas state legislature. And I got into a little bit of, as you know, I tend to get in some social media discussions with people. And I got into a social media discussion with a teacher over the weekend from right here in Texas. And his big argument against charter schools was he said, well, and he moved the goalpost actually in mid conversation. First, he said that 3 out of 5 charter schools fail and close their doors. And then he said he changed it then just a couple of comments later to 2 out of 10. So I think initially he was completely talking out of his ass, and then he actually looked up the statistic after talking out of his ass. But my argument to that was, well, how many public schools fail and close their doors? Because public schools are never allowed to fail and close their doors. Whereas a charter school, if it's not doing the job that it's going to do, and again, it's all about accountability. So if a charter school is not accountable, or they fail that accountability test, then they end up closing. And that's what you want. Because all the other statistics say that kids in charter schools do better. Not only do they do better, not only do they have better grades going through charter school, not only do they have higher placement exams, but the rate of dropout from college once they get there is lower, even after they passed all those gates, because they've learned better habits. And this is a debate that goes back, well, charter schools have a lower teacher to student ratio. Well, yeah, of course they do. But, and I promise this is coming around full circle. I'm not going off on a tangent here. Not long ago, I got into an argument with somebody about charter schools. And I basically was shooting down every single argument they had about school choice and school vouchers and charter schools. And at the end, they threw up their hands and they said, look, this is what it boils down to. Some parents, the reason we can't have school choice is because some parents are just lazy and they won't be good parents. So we have to have an even playing field in public schools, because those lazy parents are not going to seek out the good charter schools and put their kids in them. So they're going to be stuck in the failing public schools, and they're going to do poorly. What do you think about that?
It's as one of my kids goes to public school and one goes to private school, and a 2-year-old goes to private school. It's every kid's different. Every household's different. I don't think it's any small secret that I hate government, and I think it is your responsibility to raise your children. It's not the principals.
Right. It doesn't take a village to raise a child.
No.
It takes some good parents to raise a child.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier when you got a couple of other parents that can come in and step up and help. But it's not the government's job to raise your child. It's not the teacher's job to educate your child. It is yours. It's not the principal's job to discipline them. It's yours. It's not the after-school program to give your child activities and physical fitness. It's yours. It is all your responsibility. So then you have to make choices about what those best methods and ways of giving your children the things that they need to succeed. And it might be private school, or it might be public school, or it might be a tutor, or it might be a music teacher, or it might be a second language. My 2-year-old is going to a complete Spanish immersion school. Like he's 2 and he walks in, he's like, Buenos tardes, Rolo, ¿qué pasó? And he's like, oh, what's going on right now? I have no idea what these, I'm just learning the words that you're speaking to me, and now I have to learn something else. This is super dumb. But he's already loving it, and he's going to blossom in that environment, and so I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's going to depend on your kids. I don't think that the government has any right to tell me how I should raise my children. I think they should know, and I think they should recognize what is harming children, and there should be a clear line. Like, if you go and grab a 2x4 and you hit your kid, you should die. Or if you think that it's better for your child to never be educated and you should just be like wild and free, that you can step in and be like, no, your child needs to learn how to read and write. But outside of that, get out of my life. And the problem is we are again in an era, in a generation, in a society that's lazy and entitled, and they want to hand off that responsibility. They don't want to step up and own what it means to be a good parent. And it is one of the most important things that you could ever do, is be a good parent. And it is such an opportunity to do something beautiful and to do something amazing, to create this person that is going to do and accomplish not all the things that you didn't, because you're not projecting your failures on them, but watching them grow and do all the things that they dreamed of doing. But it's your responsibility to give them the tools that can accomplish that.
Absolutely right. I think we're going to pretty much wrap up on that, number one, because I think you left it on an amazing point. And I know those of you listening are looking at the clock and you're going, wait a minute, we're getting shortchanged. Tim and I have a very important meeting that we're going to have to attend, and we're going to have to roll out of here in the next couple minutes. So this is a topic that we decided in advance that we wanted to talk about a little bit, just to kind of drop a little knowledge in there. One of the biggest complaints that we've been getting from people as we had over a month off from doing any podcast is, people have been saying, hey, we'd rather have a short podcast, if nothing else, just to know you guys are still there and just to hear what you guys have to say. So we'll put this in that category. Sorry it couldn't have been longer. This is a subject we can certainly come around to in the future. If you guys want to email us or hit us up on social media with whatever your input, wherever you agree or disagree with Tim and I. But Tim, I think you left on a really important point.
This is an important thing. I know we're always talking about how to be faster, stronger, and hard to kill. Let's talk about how to make that next generation faster, stronger, and hard to kill, and happy, and fulfilled, and successful, and loved. So it's your job. Nobody else. It's yours.
And if you think about it, parenting is really the epitome of being a sheepdog. It really is. If you're listening to this and you might be in a wheelchair, or you might be, for whatever reason, physically incapable of doing a lot of the stuff that we talk about in this podcast, but you're still capable of parenting and still capable of having a loving, nurturing, and a home that builds character for that next generation. On that note, since we talked a lot about teaching the next generation, I want to leave you guys with a quote. When I think of teachers, I think of Socrates, so I want to leave you with a quote from Socrates, who said, "I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think." Make your kids think. Make them think for themselves. Remember, whether they want to be receiving of that information or not, as long as they're thinking for themselves, you're doing the right thing as a parent. So remember that. And until next time, be a sheepdog.
You have been listening to the Sheepdog Project. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/sheepdog response. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent any larger entity, public or private.